Hello friends, good day to all. Today we are going to learn about the mechanism of menstrual bleeding. What are all the physiological processes that are leading to these menstrual bleeding? So before going to the video, I would like to mention one important thing that here all the related videos to this topic I have put in the I button that is at the top right corner of the screen. You can click that and watch those videos classes as well. So let us proceed. My dear friends, in the previous videos, we have already discussed in detail about the total menstrual cycle and the phases and the functional changes and the hormone levels, how are they affected and the graphs and all things. So indeed, in this class, we are going to learn in specific about the menstrual bleeding that is occurring in the menstrual phase of the menstrual cycle. Okay, my dear friends, we have learned that this menstrual bleeding is occurring due to the endometrial destruction of the endometrium, the layer of the uterus, okay, innermost layer of the uterus, and the vasoconstriction of the blood vessels are also seen, and that is the reason why this menstrual bleeding is occurring. But we did not learn the physiological process that does it occurring behind this menstrual bleeding. So in this video we are going to deal that important thing. So from the previous classes we have learned that menstrual bleeding or the menstruation is the indicator of the menstrual cycle that is occurring in the female. So if the menstruation is occurring, that is the menstrual bleeding is occurring and seen from the outside as it comes outside the body, it indicates that menstrual cycle is going on in the female. And we have also learned that menstrual cycle stops during two stages of the life cycle of the female. What are they? Try to answer them. First, I will be mentioning, and the second you can find in the video that is mentioned in the I button at the top right corner. One is the pregnancy. So, during the pregnancy, the menstrual cycle stops or gets ceased because pregnancy is the result that is coming after the fertilization. And we knew that when the fertilization takes place, the menstrual cycle stops, and so the menstruation. So, as the menstrual cycle stops, the menstrual bleeding also do not occur and do not seen after fertilization. With this prior knowledge, let us move forward. If the fertilization do not takes place, and if there is no fertilization, no implantation as well, and that will lead to the important process that we have already learned, the regression of corpus luteum takes place by the process called involution and leads to the formation of the corpus albicans. And so as a result of the regression and the involution of the corpus luteum and forming and being converted into the corpus albicans, the level of the progesterone and estrogen decreases. Okay, so this level has decreased. Why? The reason behind is that this corpus luteum has involuted, and we know that the major source of the progesterone is the corpus luteum during this menstrual cycle, and few estrogen is also being secreted, and as a result of that, the decrease in the hormonal levels has seen, and this leads to the vasoconstriction of blood vessels, and to be specific, the spiral artery. And this vasoconstriction of the spiral artery has two different effects on this. Mainly, before proceeding, we have to learn the supply of this spiral artery because it is very important you can have more sense after this. Okay, so in the anatomy class of the uterus and the blood supply of the uterus, you will understand that we have already discussed that the spiral artery supplies to stratum functionale. So, as the spiral artery has vasoconstriction effects, and so this will affect only the stratum functional of the uterus but not the other layer. The other layer is stratum basal. So the basal layer has no effects and it is not involved in this menstrual bleeding. Okay, that is very important point and you must consider that because it is usually asked in MCQs. And this vasoconstriction of spiral artery leads to the release of prostaglandin F2 alpha. And we also know that prostaglandins will have contraction effects, and so it contracts the myometrium of the uterus, and these myometrial contractions is a result of prostaglandins. You have to note that point as well. And my dear friends, the other effect is the vasoconstriction of the spiral artery leads to the lysosomal instability. And this instability, as we all know, the lysosomes have proteolytic enzymes, and due to this instability, these proteolytic enzymes are released. Proteolytic enzymes are released. As a result of this, necrosis of the tissue occurs. Endometrium. Which layer? Layer is stratum functionale. Okay, you have to remember it because it is very important, because when we correlate all the subjects, only then we can be perfect. Okay, so histology, anatomy, physiology, all these subjects you have to correlate, and so I love to learn in that way as well as I am teaching in that way. Okay, so this necrosis of the endometrium, first it starts at the focal level and leads to the larger level, and as a result of these, at last the menstrual bleeding occur, and this is in the form of liquid. You have to note that point as well. My dear friends, these myometrial contractions also have effect here, and that is as a combined effect. The menstrual bleeding is taking place, and this is how we have to learn and we have to understand things. And my dear friends, I would like to add one extra pointer here. The prostaglandins have contraction effect, and if the prostaglandins have increase of the prostaglandin release to the increase of the myometrial contractions, and so pain has increased, pain is seen, and that is known as dysmenorrhea. It's known as condition, is a clinical condition that's known as a dysmenorrhea. That is a disorder, one type of disorder, menstrual bleeding. So my dear friends, if you have listened my previous class, up to these it is coming under one state, that is the luteal phase. And from here all this is the menstrual phase. So these are the two phases we have learned. Actually we are trying to learn the menstrual phase only, but we have to have some basic knowledge before this so that we can correlate the subject and learn. And so I have mentioned all these things prior to this.